All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're traveling back in time to the ancient Indian village of Gopalpur to uncover an incredibly powerful story from our source material about the true power of silent dedication. It's a story that proves action doesn't just speak louder than words, it completely silences them. In a world that is so full of noise, this timeless tale offers a really fascinating perspective on focus, determination, and just letting your results do the talking. Let's start by asking ourselves a pretty profound question. Can being underestimated and specifically choosing not to respond to your naysayers actually be your ultimate secret weapon for success? I mean, we live in a society that constantly demands we shout our goals from the rooftops and prove ourselves to everybody, right? But what happens when we just stay quiet, when we do that deeply unglamorous, gritty work completely in the shadows? Which brings us to part one of our story, the quiet boy of Gopalpur.
Picture this bustling village, mornings starting with ringing temple bells, people everywhere, just a constant hum of daily life. And right in the middle of it all was 14-year-old Anish. He was a complete anomaly. He spoke so little that he was practically invisible, which, of course, made him the prime target for mockery among the local kids. And this slide brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast at the heart of our story. On one side, you have the village bully, Kalu, who was quite literally all noise, boasting, and arrogance. On the other side, you have Anish, whose entire foundation was built on pure silence and unseen hustle. Whenever anyone actually bothered to ask what he was doing all day, Anish would just simply say he was listening to himself.
But here's the thing, Anuj wasn't just sitting around doing nothing. He spent his days sitting quietly by the banks of the Chandan River. The villagers would laugh and call him a river sage, totally missing the point. For Anuj, the Chandan River wasn't just water, it was a literal mentor. He was meticulously studying its persistence. He learned from its continuous, unstoppable flow, realizing that the river didn't need to make a fuss or announce its intentions to move forward, it just relentlessly carved its own path through solid rock over time. Moving right along to part two, the king's big challenge.
Suddenly, the quiet routine of the village is shattered when loud drum beats echo through the streets. A messenger had arrived with massive news. A state-level race was being organized by the king himself. And look at these stakes on the screen. They are absolutely huge. The winner wouldn't just get a gold medal and the king's personal blessing, they'd get a highly prized education at a Gurukul, which was basically the Ivy League of ancient residential schools. It was a prize so grand it made the village kids literally jump with joy. Predictably, the arrogant Kalu instantly declared that he had it in the bag. Meanwhile, Anuj simply stood in the crowd, his heart pounding, remembering the river's lesson to just keep moving forward.
Now, I want you to pause and absorb this incredible moment. When the registration clerk mocked his thin 14-year-old frame, Anuj looked at him with a completely calm face and delivered this line. "If I fly, I'll land at the very front." I mean, wow. It was a moment of pure, quiet confidence that left the other kids laughing, but it showed an unbreakable inner resolve that nobody else was paying attention to. Now let's dive into part three, silent hard work by the river, which is really the core of this whole explainer. After registration, Anuj basically went mute. He stripped away all distractions and focused purely on execution. And this timeline visually maps out his grueling daily grind. We're talking pitch dark, long before the sun even came up. First, he's out there running barefoot on freezing cold river sand just to build endurance. As morning breaks, he's doing precision jumps from slippery rock to develop his agility. And later, he's literally throwing himself into the water, swimming aggressively against the strong current of the Chandan River. It was a relentless, exhausting routine that left his feet covered in mud and blood, severely testing his limits, but man, it forged an absolutely unbreakable spirit. Of course, it wasn't always smooth sailing. One day, the sheer exhaustion caught up with him, and he tripped, falling face first right into the thick mud. Naturally, Kalu happened to be walking by and just bursts into laughter, mocking the so-called quiet rustler. But Anuj wiped the dirt off his face and simply stated, "At least I am moving forward even by falling." That right there, that hits the nail on the head. True progress often looks messy, painful, and even foolish to the people who aren't actually in the arena themselves. Which brings us to the climax, part 4, that great day of the race. The tension is absolutely off the charts as the day arrives. The arena is packed to the brim. The noise is deafening, drums are pounding, and there's this thick dust swirling everywhere in the air. While all the other boys are jumping around, shadowboxing, and burning off all this nervous energy, Anuj steps up to the starting line barefoot, eyes closed, completely unfazed.
As they tense their muscles waiting for that signal, we have to ask ourselves this exact question. Can a quiet boy truly defeat loud, boastful arrogance? The signal drops, and the boys shoot forward like arrows. A massive cloud of thick dirt kicks up from the track. But surprisingly, as the dust settles just a bit, we see Anuj at the very back of the pack, dead last. The crowd is groaning, shouting that they knew this would happen all along. And Kalu, he's at the very front, grinning, supremely confident that victory is already his. But hold on, because a subtle shift happens here. Anuj stops paying attention to the racers ahead of him. He ignores the chaotic cheering around him. Instead, he reconnects with his silent mentor. He completely blocks out the noise of the crowd and matches his breathing perfectly to the calm, rhythmic, unstoppable flow of the Chandon River. Right in the middle of all that chaos, he finds his deep, quiet center. Notice how the dynamic flips completely. Leaving the noise and the dust behind, Anuj's feet suddenly become as light as air. He starts rapidly blowing past these panicked, heavy-breathing runners one by one. The deafening roar of the crowd just fades away to static in his mind. Next thing you know, he catches up to the very front, leaving arrogant Kalu totally stunned, completely bewildered as to how this quiet, barefoot kid just teleported right beside him. Using every last ounce of his silent, collected strength, feeling as though he's literally gliding on air, Anuj surges past Kalu and absolutely crushes the finish line. First place! The shock was so profound that this entire roaring arena instantly dropped into a stunning pin-drop silence. The quiet boy they had all mercilessly mocked was now standing there as the undisputed champion. Which leads us to our final act, Part 5, The Echo of Hard Work. The quiet boy of Gopalpur had pulled it off. Mere seconds later, that stunned silence shattered into this thunderous applause that echoed all the way back to the riverbanks. The village's entire perception of Anuj changed in a single instant. During the medal ceremony, the astonished king looks at this young champion and asks him, "Why do you speak so little?" And Anuj delivers this absolute masterclass of a response. "Maharaj, words get tired, not hard work." I mean, talk about completely redefining what true power sounds like.
And so, the hero's journey concludes exactly where it began. When Anuj returned to Gopalpur, there was no bragging, no rubbing it in anyone's face. He walked straight back to his beloved river, smiled, and quietly said, "Look, Chandan, today my silence spoke the loudest." His relentless promise under the stars had changed his destiny forever.
So as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want you to look at this final question on the screen. Think about the distractions and the noise in your own life right now. What is your Chandan River? What is your personal source of quiet strength and inspiration? And more importantly, what external noise, what doubts, or what arrogance are you going to choose to defeat? Not by arguing back, but by simply letting your relentless hard work do all the talking.